Hey guys, Anthony 4x4 Diesel with 526 kilometres on the clock and that new car smell oozing out the window here. We're going to continue to answer some important questions about whether or not you should purchase a new vehicle and why. Yes, 526 kilometres. Somebody asked, hey, do you like the grille on the GX, the chrome and all that? Now, short answer, yes and no. Longer answer, look, I actually like the black. I think the black suits the GX better. Everything else is black. The mirrors, the handles, the little inserts on the bumper, everything's black. Look, it is mainly black with that little bit of bling. It's not bad, but I think we could have lived without it. It does make it look a bit nicer, but if you're going to do that, I think they should have put the headlights with it, the GXL front type headlights. Just do the whole front or leave it alone. That's what I think. It's not bad, but I probably would have been just as happy if it was left black. The question on many people's lips is, do you keep your old 1KD FTV or do you update to a 2022 or 23 by the time you get it 1GD FTV? Now I want to be clear here, and I swear on my family's lives I'm going to give you my God honest appraisal on this vehicle and the other engines in comparison to help you make a decision on what you're going to do with your Prado or Hilux or whatever the case may be. Or perhaps you own another brand and you're thinking about purchasing one, because to be quite honest, I was sort of bagging out that 2019 pretty hard. Now, I want to be clear, the 2019 is still a lot better than, let's say, most, if not all the other options out there, which some people will disagree with. That's why they made other choices, and that's fine, each to their own. But this vehicle, it's got a lot going for it. But you've got to be very cautious of the hybrids that I believe are coming. Now, you've got to remember when it comes to fuel economy, there's a lot of things that make a difference. And if you want to compare this one to the 2019, you must go back to our playlist, fuel economy. You'll see some fuel economy information and comparisons. What we get in the 120, we sort of went a little bit extensive on that, and similar on the 1GD. There's lots of videos showing everything from the absolute best to the worst, and I can tell you offhand, you could get a trip that was 7 litres per 100 k's, and you could get one that's 17 litres per 100 k's. I will remind you, it had no tow bar. It's a GX, the lightest option possible. This is also a GX, in my opinion, the best value for money. And a lot of people will say, oh, but you need this and you need that and the GXL. And look, I don't see the value in the GXL. So people say, oh, you need the diff lock. Well, years ago, only a few years ago, they didn't have a diff lock in the GXL, and everyone was happy with the GXL then, and it went off-road in all those places, and the traction control does the job. So that proved you don't need the diff lock, okay? So just because it's got it now doesn't mean you need it. And this is my whole point with people, oh, but I need this and I need that. Only 5 years ago or 10 years ago, even the higher spec vehicles didn't have that. Now what you get in the GX, it's ridiculous, rear cross traffic alerts, unlock and the light shines down under the mirror. You've got indicators on the mirrors. You've got that extra camera up there scanning speed signs to tell you about your speed limit. And I warn you now, the technology can be quite annoying. You can turn it all off, but there's so many different things that you can turn off or on and adjust the sensitivity and that sort of thing. And obviously we've only done 526 Ks, but I've done enough 526 Ks. Now it's time to start doing a few minimal modifications and do some further comparison, because we've done enough to know that the vehicle is the same in so many ways, okay? So it's obviously the same engine, it's the same transmission, okay? The hardware's the same. They can talk words about, pistons, valves, ports, blocks and whatever. It's the same engine. They may have changed some manufacturing, machining, slight adjustments, but it's nothing that's made any performance difference on the vehicle or from the engine. The turbo is what makes the difference, and the way it's tuned, which I'm going to call, to keep it simple, it's the remap, it's the tune. It's the tune of the vehicle from Toyota, and of course, I believe Toyota do it best. Now, somebody said, oh, are you going to change your tune? Well, what do you mean change my tune? So my tune is this engine, 2755cc, so that's a 2.75, it's not even a 2.8, it's close. But it's 2.75 is a undersized engine for the size of the vehicle. Now, the way they've set it up and tuned it, and as I said, the transmission software is unbelievable. It's probably one of the best automatic transmission software packages of any vehicle ever driven. And I've driven a lot of vehicles and I love the way the FG Falcons with the 6-speed, they were great as well. But this is absolutely awesome. I've told you in the other videos, chalk and cheese. I'm not going to go on about it too much, but I'm really super impressed. So I've obviously driven it another couple hundred Ks since last video, and the thing just pulls. It doesn't matter if it's from lower speeds, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80, 100, 110, it doesn't matter, okay? You'll be coming to a hill on the Calder Freeway, for example. So I've driven from Bendigo area back down to Melbourne. That's what the Ks are. There you go. Now you don't know too much about me. But look, basically there's some hills involved there. Nowhere on any of those incline hills coming down did it even think about unlocking the torque converter in 6th gear, cruising along at about 1750 revs with the cruise control set on about 114, 115, because that's a genuine 110. We're doing the speed limit, right? So when I say 115, I'm probably talking 110. Do you know what I mean? It's about 4Ks out. That's another subject. Don't even talk to me about it. I wish they just said it right. But anyway, the point is, the fuel economy, it wasn't as good. It wasn't 9. I think it was about 10 in the end, but I'll be honest, I forgot to have a look what it was. But I went, well, you know, like, so it would have settled down. It probably would have been 9.5, but about the same. There wasn't a DPF burn included, and it was a little bit higher. So I found that interesting. Going up towards Bendigo is certainly more uphill, and there's some decent hills at the start near before Gisborne, sort of between Sunbury and Gisborne, that sort of area. People that know the area know what I mean. On those hills, that's where it's going to kick down a gear, but it immediately locks up the torque converter again. You know, it'll unlock, go to 5th, lock. It'll unlock, go to 4th, lock. It's just amazing how good it works. It's better than, you know, it's just, I can't, look, we said we weren't going to talk about it. Let's go through, there's been quite a few questions and subjects raised on the last video in the comments. So what I'd rather do than try and answer there, let's just have a quick look at those. So one says, if you're interested in the hybrid, check out 300 horsepower RAV4 Prime reviews from the US. Yes, well, what I'm trying to say is, this is an awesome vehicle. I don't want to sell you one because I don't want it to be, oh, Anthony, you said this is okay, go and buy this vehicle. Now, I'm not saying go and sell you 1KDs if you got the last of the best and get one of these. What I'm saying is, this is what I'm saying very clearly before we get to those comments. I want to be clear as, the 1KDs are a good engine. The earlier ones are the ones that were misunderstood. The injectors got left in too long. They're old and fogged. The seats leaked, and there's all these problems because they didn't get maintained right. People didn't understand them. We've been educating people for years. Most people that are watching this understand them. If you don't, go back to the injector information playlist and check that out because you need to understand. But as they went through from 05, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, they just kept improving things, particularly the injectors. By 2015, it's bloody awesome, okay? So I really love those 1KDs. Now, I love the 120 as well, which is why I say last of the best, 2008 or 9, and last of the best 150s, 2014, 15, of course, and 13 and 12 and 11 and 10, and, they're all good. Especially if you put your injectors in and they're full DLC and the job's done right, etc. Look, everybody knows parts day's Monday, whatever, so whatever, but it doesn't bother me. If you want to sell your 1KD, my advice to you isn't based on selling parts. Some people think I'm trying to get people to keep the old cars. Their mentality obviously isn't up there because somebody is going to own the old cars. Either way, I'm going to sell them the injectors. It doesn't matter who owns it. So the people listening, the advice is for you. The people that are not listening, well, who knows what they're going to own? And it's up to you to make your decision. But in my opinion, with trying not to upset people that own 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19 Prados and Hiluxes, okay? And the Hilux certainly does better because it's lighter and therefore it holds converter a lot easier. But it's a problem. It's not a problem. It's great. People have got them and they love them. So if you're happy with it, that's awesome, and I'm glad you are. But from a mechanical perspective, when you understand how the transmission works and the software and what's going on with it, and the temperatures, how fast it goes up, and we demonstrated that, again, heading towards Bendigo on that Calder there. This vehicle, I don't even want to I don't need to put any sort of gauge into it. It's going to be boring. The transmission is going to be 80 degrees, 83, 85, 78. It's going to be either side of 80 because the torque converter is always locked. So it's going to warm up to be like the coolant temperature. It's going to get cooling on the pan, make it a bit cool. It's going to be about 78, right? Because the coolant's going to be about 85, and then you've got airflow. Hot day, it might go 83, 85. It's just not going to get hot. You're not going to need an auto cooler for this vehicle. You don't need to look, I never said you needed one before, but you certainly don't need one. Anyone that tried to sell you an auto cooler on a 2021 onwards, the one that's had the bigger turbo, the changes, watch our videos, down here, the different clamp. That's the revised turbo. That's the one with the remap. So this is an easy way you can tell if you're not sure and you're looking at vehicles, used vehicles perhaps. If you see the one with those updated clamps, we'll call it, just to keep it simple, that's the one you want. These are things that are going to hold their value because I'm telling you, they're awesome. Now, I didn't say I like a little engine in the Prado. I didn't say that. I said now it's acceptable. In my opinion, how it was before, to me, feeling very gutless. The transmission shifts were all wrong. Transmissions are getting really hot and you're using a lot more fuel because the thing's constantly slipping. You couldn't sort of get a lock. The engine's just revving and that's why manuals are more efficient because they just lock up and pull. These things lock up and pull. You saw it. Tight engine, as people would say. Uphill, as people would say. DPF burn included. 9 litres per 100 Ks. That's awesome. But you've got to remember, it's a stock standard, very light GX with road tyres. We're going to get some BFG KO2s on. We're going to slight lift in there. The lift doesn't make much difference. Bull bars aren't going to make a big difference. They make a bit. The biggest thing that's going to make a difference is the tyres. So what we're going to do now is, without too many more mods, we'll get the lift in because it's only going to be a slight lift anyway. We're going to get the tyres on and do the same runs as what we've done with it like this to directly compare again and let you know with the tyres how much more fuel it uses. And I'm going to tip, even with this setup, it's probably still going to be about 1 litre per 100 Ks, but we'll see. What I'm saying is, from a mechanical perspective, for me, I couldn't stand owning a 2015, 16, 17, and 19 because of the way the transmission behaves and the gutlessness of the engine compared to, I'm used to driving the 1KD, right? So they just pull, they've got torque. I drive them every day. I've compared to other vehicles. I've given it both to all of them on the on-ramp, on the freeway and all that. I know what goes and what doesn't go. And we've lined it up, the 120 against the 1GD Hilux, which was 400 kilos lighter, and the 120 blew it away at the lights every time, okay? So don't tell me this, that. People get, the 2019, I had comments like, is the handbrake stuck on? This is what I'm talking about. Now, don't get me wrong, when you floor it, whether it's that one or this one, it feels much the same. But I've got to tell you, it's not the same. This one's got more top end. The lagginess seems to have gone away a little bit, so maybe it's sort of learning and settling, everything's loosened up a bit. But there's still a bit of, maybe I'm getting used to it, right? So there's a bit of lag down low, the under 2,000 revs thing. So long as you just you'll just notice that. There's always a price to pay. When you put a bigger turbo, you're going to get a bit more lag down low, right? So it's acceptable now. I don't have a problem. Now, DPFs have been around, what, 6 years here now? 6 years? So hopefully they've got that right. There's no guarantee. There is a guarantee. There's a 10-year guarantee, or at least a 5 or 7 year. Talk to Mr. Toyota about what the guarantee on the DPF is. The timing chain guide, whatever the issues were there, it's been around 6 years. Hopefully they've got that sorted and you're not going to have any issues. But this is the problem with technology and the problem with COVID, right? 19. Look, there's shortage of workers. There's critical staff shortages, which means quality goes down. I don't know how they went in Japan in the factory. I haven't been there. Has anyone else been there? I don't know how they went with that, but every other business seems to struggle getting workers and the right workers, so the standards are going down. So there's no guarantee that you're not going to have some sort of issue with something, but I believe Toyota's still your best option. So now, to buy a new GX today, I'll just give you a price indicator as well. I wouldn't pay more than about 60, 61. You should be able to get one for about 61. This whole full price thing, stop doing it. If they want full price, walk away. And if everybody does the same thing, the cars, they're too expensive now. The price has got to come down or stop going up. People are buying way too many new cars and the price is just going ridiculous. You should be getting on a Prado at least 5 or 6 grand discount, in my opinion, whether it's a GX, GXL, whatever the case may be. It's known that Toyotas have had a really good markup and, dealerships can discount the vehicle and be happy and still make a really good profit. And don't worry, they made plenty out of me and you, even though you thought you got a good deal. But I'm just telling you, I think if you can get a deal with a 5 in front of it for a GX, like 58, 59, I think you've got a pretty good price. You've cleaned up. Anything with a 6 in front of it's maxed out. about 61 or so. That's about the maximum you're going to pay with metallic paint. No other extras, you know. It's standard to have a full tank of fuel. So don't let, the mats are included. It comes standard, okay? So don't let them throw in the mats because the mats are already there. Okay, let's go through a few of these questions here because it's quite interesting. As we said, talking about hybrids, we need to talk about the hybrids briefly. So for those that missed it, the old hybrid system, okay, to keep it simple, it was like an electric motor and a petrol motor. And, you know, a Camry, let's say like a, I don't know what year I should use here, you know, 10 years old, whatever, 10 or 15-year-old Camry. You know, the hybrids when they came out, when it was 2000 and whatever year it was. What year we're going to use? About 05, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's say 2009, right? 2009 hybrid Camry. There's a petrol engine. And usually what happened when you moved off really slow to be on electric, and as soon as you give it any sort of, you know, bang, the engine starts, you're on a petrol engine. So the saving was only really there if you lived in a, you know, like these urban areas, sort of like stop-start traffic, because it'll be on electric. And then, of course, your aircon never really worked that well then either. And so I didn't really like the hybrids because you're paying more money for it. Your batteries aren't going to last forever. It's going to be costly maintenance. And it was kind of one or the other, so I didn't really like it. Now, the new hybrids, the way it works is, I'm not going to get into it too much here, other than to tell you it's absolutely awesome. This is something I've said in previous videos, that eventually something like this is what will happen, and it's happened in the other vehicles like the, you know, the RAV4 for example, where, so, you know, it's running on an 88, I think it's the 88 kilowatt. There's a few different engines, okay, so it's really simple. There's no automatic transmission. It's an engine which is basically kind of like a generator. It runs at the most efficient speed most of the time to reach, and that runs basically a motor that's a generator to charge the battery, and while the car's running on the other motor, and that engine can shut off whatever. And when you really give it to it, it all engages. So you're running a petrol and electric motor. It's just phenomenal how simple, reliable, they're going to be fuel efficient. And I just said, I hope they've got a plug. And some people go, oh, you know, well, what do you want to plug? It's not going to be that. The plug's awesome, even if you've got 50 k's range, because if the sun's shining and someone can plug it in and then press a button to choose electric only and take the kids to school and back and go to the shops and back, or go to work and back, whatever it is, 50 k's, 70 k's, 80 k's, and you come back and you plug it in again, happy days, the engine doesn't start. So of course a plug's an awesome thing. How much would it really cost to put a plug there? You know, the reason they haven't put a plug there is so they can sell cars, and then later they put a plug there, and then you go, oh, I got an upgrade. Has anybody woken up yet? It's the same with all the technology. They hold things back. The bigger RAM, the bigger, faster memory, the better processor and all that. They hold it back. There's always got to be an upgrade, and that's what's happening with all these vehicles, right? You know, another upgrade, the price goes up, another upgrade, and everybody seems to think they need the latest thing. You're wasting your money. Stop living in debt and having loans and everything to have the latest vehicle. That's what I'm saying. So depending on how much money you've got, whether you should think about purchasing a new Prado or not. I still think if you got your 1KD, stick with it. Now, if you've got money and you're driving around in an old 120 and you really want a new car, then this is an acceptable purchase. I'm happy with this. Now remember, it's only 500 odd Ks. Give me some more time if you want to wait. There's going to be more videos, but there was a lot of attention on the last video, so I thought we better address this and give some more information. I'm concerned that everybody's going to go, oh mate, these diesels are awesome. Dirty diesels, okay? Okay, it is awesome. It could be the last of the, not the last of the best, but the last of the very bloody good, and you're left holding the bag, like, you know, because the hybrid comes out, right? Either way, I'm very confident there's going to be a hybrid. I don't think it's going to be a V. There's all these people. Tell me in the comments how you know there's going to be a V6 diesel, and why would there be a V6? There's not one now, and if it's going to be a hybrid, the way the engines work together, they're not going to have a V6 diesel and an electric engine together. It's just not going to happen. It doesn't make any sense. So I don't know where you're getting your information from, because I'd love to know, because nobody knows what Toyota's going to do. Because even if they make the vehicle, it doesn't mean we're getting it in Australia. So unless you are the CEO of TMCA, Toyota Motor Corporation Australia, you might have an insight as to what might happen, but I don't even think they know what's going to happen in 2023. It's 22 now, right? So all these videos you're watching, all this crap people put out there in videos, stop watching them, because a lot of it's garbage. They just like to say things to get attention. I'm here to give you genuine information, right? So my concern is, doesn't matter for me. I'm the Prado specialist. I'm the Prado Hilux, whatever. We're here, you know, we're the Prado hospital. We need to buy and sell and use and drive vehicles. We travel, we tour Australia, and we use the vehicles We need to do this to learn about them, to stay on top of the game, right? And that's why I've been doing some education on the hybrids and what's going on there. I've always said the hybrid, I think it's a good thing, but when it changes where they use both engines, and that's happened, okay? So that's happened, and there's still some different systems they can use, but I don't want you to go and spend 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 Rand, whatever it is, for this awesome diesel. It's not that awesome, it's just a 2755cc, but they've got it right. They've got the right turbo on there, they've mapped it right, the transmission's right, the whole car driveline. Before it was solid, don't get me wrong, I love the other Prado. I wasn't happy with the gutless engine. This one pulls well, the transmission's right, so this vehicle is right. But that, you know, if you go, okay, well, I'll go get one of those, and then in a year or 2 years, this hybrid comes out, and they're going to have my tip, so it's like an engine, right? It's going to be probably a petrol engine. It's got like a transfer case on it. All happens in the transfer case. Your motors, electric motors and everything are in there. To keep it simple, we're not explaining it now, but basically, when they both run together, it's a rocket ship, right? So when you're towing and you've got to overtake and all that, that will be the vehicle, and it will be more economical because it's mainly electric. The torque of these things is unbelievable, and they're just going to get better year by year. Think about technology, how fast it changes, and how fast everything in the world changes, especially at the moment. Everything in the world, how fast everything's changing, good and bad. But the technology is absolutely flying, and what's going to happen in the next few years? 5, 10 years from now is going to be crazy, and this is where it's really risky to invest a lot of money into a new vehicle. So on one hand, I want to talk you out of it, but I don't want to talk you out of it because I love this vehicle as well. So, you know, it's not for me to decide for you. It's for me to, from my heart, share exactly what I feel. So I'm going to go back again. And the V6, the old petrol V6, that was always awesome. You know, we always liked petrol engines. Don't get me wrong. I hated diesels. I never liked diesel. Diesels are for four-wheel driving to me. That's how we came into diesels. And then, of course, we saw an issue that we had to help people with, and that's all the misunderstandings of what people call problems. It's people not doing maintenance right problems. It's people not understanding diesel systems problems, okay? So we're here to understand that, take care of that, and educate everybody on that, and that's what we're doing. So your 120, it's awesome. I'm keeping my 120, by the way, if anyone wants to ask that question. The 120 is not going anywhere until, who knows? Like I said, if somebody come along and said, hey, I'll give you 50 grand for your 120, maybe, but maybe not. See, so you're having a laugh. You reckon it's pretty expensive, don't you? Well, if you knew all the new things in it, bumper to bumper mechanically, and that setup, you might actually go, well, you know, you can't. But look, now that you can get a new Prado that gets Anthony's tick of quality assurance, you know what I mean? The new Prado gets the tick of approval. But don't jump in and then regret it in a year or two. Yes, the price of the new hybrid and electric, it'll probably be even higher again. If this is 60, it's probably going to be 70, maybe more. Who knows? I don't know when it's coming, but I believe it'll be a 4-cylinder petrol. It'll have a bigger electric engine compared to, you know, like the RAV4s. As far as I know, Toyota have got about 3 electric engines, okay? So the one in the RAV4 is like an 88 horsepower engine, okay? They've got a heap of torque. Anyway, we don't want to, look, let's get through these comments. I know we've gone on a bit, haven't we? But it's very important. I hope you're really getting into this and it's helping you understand and think about what you should waste your money on. Now, you know, life's long or life's short, I don't know. But, you know, if you want a new car and you've been waiting so long and you really want a new car and you're prepared to risk it, even though the hybrid comes out in a year or two, then these are the vehicles. Now, if you're a bit wiser and you go, you know what, I got a 15, mate, it's only done 150,000 Ks, it's got 1 million Ks left in it, I'm keeping it forever, then you be happy and do that, because there's nothing wrong with a 1KD with a 5-speed auto. They work really well. And if you want to keep your old V6, that's fine too. But all these vehicles, like the 1KDs and all that, so this is what I'd be suggesting. If you've got an older one, it kind of owes you nothing, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like my 120 owes me nothing. It's done over 400,000 Ks, it's taken me everywhere. It owes me, if I got nothing for it, it doesn't owe me anything. I'm not giving it away, by the way, but you know, it doesn't owe me anything. I'm not selling it. So if the future needs better efficiency and whatever, well, we can buy small electric type, you know, vehicles to use for everyday running around. And then when you do a trip, you might use your diesel. So it depends where, you know, it all depends what happens with these and what the range is, but I think it's going to be really good. Finally, let's get to the comments. And we're going to start with the freshest one first. I'm just going to skim through. Firstly, just because I got 9 litres per 100 Ks on one trip and 6 litres going another 10 or 15 minutes down the road at about 100 k's an hour. Don't expect to get 6, 8, 7 or 9 litres per 100 k's. You start it up cold and drive down the road 10 minutes, you're going to see 12 or something like that, more or less. Okay, it's the longer trip that it needs to take time to warm up and settle in and get to a decent run to get the fuel economy down. That is a one trip fuel economy I showed you, not the life of the vehicle. That will be shown later in other vehicles. From probably now is probably a good time to have a look at that before we change tyres and stuff, so we will do that. The dusty bronze is probably one of the easiest colours to look after, and it does look nice, and it changes colour a bit depending on the light, and I don't see any value in the GXL, as I'm pretty sure I already covered. Look, the diff lock could be handy for some people if you're into that really, but I know people that have been following me around in Prados built from 09, 150s, they've got awesome traction control. In the 120, we've got the LSD or we've got lockers or whatever, so we do it easy, and we do some really, people think, you know, we do easy, we do some pretty hard tracks, you know, and the 150s generally get it done, even if they do it a little bit, because the locker's instantaneous, where the traction control, it takes a second to work. So if you get on a really gnarly track, you kind of want it to work straight away. But I've got to tell you, you don't want to be taking a brand new GXL Prado on a really gnarly track, because you're just going to wreck it anyway. These are the times that you want to keep the older vehicle, so then when you damage it, it doesn't hurt as much. The GXL comes with no side steps and no roof rails. On this vehicle, I have installed side steps and roof rails as per our posts and videos. Stay tuned, subscribe, turn the bell on. Oz Prado crew, if you're in Australia, if you want to see what we're doing with the modifications on this vehicle, and there's also a free battery to be won. So the other positive of this vehicle, and I've only seen it once, the DPF burn seemed to only take a few minutes, and in one of the comments, it was a high ace, but it does say the DPF burn only took about 5 minutes. So if all the DPF burns that were taking about 20 minutes, it was quite pathetic, to be quite honest. A 20-minute burn every 300 k's, that's a 20-minute burn every 3 hours. That is a lot of DPF burning and a lot of fuel wasted. So when you equated that into the fuel economy, it wasn't that exciting. So that 9 with a tight engine, as people would say, I'll tell you it makes virtually no difference, but that 9 with a new engine with a DPF burn is absolutely awesome. And I didn't try and get that. That was, I'll tell you again, the cruise control was set on 114 kilometers an hour, which was about 110 kilometers an hour for that whole run, other than obviously the 100 zones, the couple of 60 zones, mainly highway, slightly uphill and undulating. Now there's 3 settings on the dashboard. One's, it depends from Toyota to Toyota, but one's called after start or one trip. On these vehicles, I think it's called after start. On the Camrys, it might be called one trip. Okay, that's, you've started the car from that run till you switch it off. That's one trip. So if I show you that economy, take notice in the picture on the screen if it says one trip, and then you'll have after reset, that's since we reset it. So I'm going to show you the life of the vehicle since I reset it when it was new to 500 odd Ks in another video, and you'll see whatever that is, and then we're going to reset it and do the same for about 500 Ks with these tyres, same sort of driving, same if possible, same, and you can do an absolute comparison. Bada bing. The red hot topic, how to upgrade the transmission software, because it's so good, isn't it? And you know what? You could probably live with the other engine because it's only got a bit less power, a bit less torque, and it's certainly be livable and be able to deliver that power and torque to the drive line if the bloody transmission was set up right in the first place. Now, a lot of people are going, oh, I love mine, mine's fine, good in it, but a lot of other people understand what I'm saying. They've felt it, they know it's slipping, unlocking, they know it's getting hot, and they hate it. And why should you void your warranty and go and get your automatic transmission remapped? And who knows what map they're going to put in and if it's any good or not. I'm telling you, this Toyota one's good. The bad news is I don't believe there's ever going to be any way to get an update. Like, you can't just go into Toyota and say, can you, it's a different, as far as they're concerned, it's a different engine. They'll call it the new engine as well. Different turbo, it's different tuning, it's different. It's just the whole package is different. So if you know someone, you might be able to get it. If you know someone high tech, they might be able to get the, if they've got equipment and they can copy the program and put it in. But there's nobody I know of, and I haven't got time to follow that one up, unfortunately. But if you all pressure Toyota dealers and ask them to pass it back to TMCA, that it's absolutely pathetic and it's like chalk and cheese. So how
because of the massive difference, the question to them would be, this is where a class action should be, to be quite honest, not on DPFs. Maybe on DPFs, I'm not saying there wasn't a problem, but you know, it went on with other manufacturers for decades and there was no class action. So why did it have to be on Toyota? Anyway, pick on Toyota. So the class action that should be is the pathetic software of the 6-speed auto in the 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 1GDs and the Prados and whatever other vehicles. I'll just give my 19 as an example because it was 4 years in. You'd think they got it right by then, but there was no changes. And I believe it's not done right, and everybody should have that latest update software. I totally agree. And I think just pressure. If everybody talks to their local Toyota dealer, talk to their dealer, ask them to put it through to TMCA, there's got to be somehow they'll be able to come up with a reflash for that transmission. It might not be this exact one, but it would be a massive improvement if they put some effort in to do that. And when I talk about problems and say, you know, quality control, you never know what you're going to get and you might get unlucky. So just because so far this is looking good doesn't mean every vehicle's the same, because you've got to look at one of the comments and somebody says, just got a Toyota Hiace 2.8 for a week, using it for work on urban driving and got 14 litres per 100 Ks. That's just a Hiace, 14 per 100, with 300 kilometres only on the odometer. So yeah, not so good. And as we've already said, don't delete the DPF. The DPF's a good thing. The DPF is for everybody's health. The DPF generally works well. They've had, like I said, 6 years now, so you think they got it right. And if they don't, there's a warranty on it. We don't hear a lot of problems with DPFs, so that means there isn't a lot of problems, so you don't need to touch it. You're just going to avoid your warranty and maybe end up in some trouble. Somebody asked, what's the best method for running it in? Drive it. Okay, so don't worry about it. The general running in procedure would be what it normally is, and things like don't race the engine. You know, don't give it a hard time when it's new, but don't baby it either. Just drive the vehicle. Don't wring its neck. Don't rev the, you know, crap out of it. Just drive it nice. Vary the revs a lot. Let it warm up. Drive it nice when it's cold. You're forever running in the vehicle. Think of it that way, forever. From the moment you start the key, start the engine, press the button, you're forever running in the vehicle. Every next drive, forever. It doesn't get to a point and go, that's it. Now, there's a window there that with some engines, if you don't give it enough load, it doesn't use the compression to push the rings out to get them to bed into. But you're not going to have any of these issues with these engines. It's a Toyota and we're in 2022. So be nice, but just drive it. And every now and then give it a bit. Don't wring its neck, and once you get to a few 100 Ks, give it a good rev every now and then. Like always, just drive it. So I truly hope that's given you an insight to how I feel about it all. Answered a few questions there for the people that hung around. Just in conclusion or in closing, just to recap, obviously, in my opinion, the 90 series, I mean, they were kind of the first of the Prados. They're getting a bit old. Sorry, I know some people have got them and they love them, that's awesome, but they are getting a bit old. The engines are old as well. The 1KZ, I know people love it, I love it too, but it is getting old. It's old and dirty, so, you know, keep it for the farm or keep it for off-road trips. But, you know, we've really got to start thinking about doing our part, so at some stage it's probably going to need to be upgraded, or just keep it for those off-road trips and have something else for the short run around, go to work, this and that. So something small, an electric hybrid type thing, you know, I think you need a Corolla hybrid. Anyway, so the 120s, I just think they're awesome vehicles still. Some people say I've upgraded to a 150 from a 120 and it uses more fuel. Well, this is simply because it's quite simple. Didn't you know it's simple? It's a bigger vehicle. The 150 is massive compared to the 120. The 150 is a much bigger vehicle than a 120, to the point that I'm pretty confident that there's probably less difference from a 150 to a 200 series than there is from a 120 to a 150. Okay, so the 150 is a very large car. When I drive through 2.4 on the 120, I don't think twice. In the 150, oh, careful you don't hit the mirrors, you know, like you've got a bit of room there, but you've got to think about it. You can see those big bulgy guards that stick out and whatever. There's just less room there. It's a bigger vehicle, okay? So not much in length and that sort of thing, mainly wider, maybe a little bit higher, just the front. The overall picture, if you park them side by side, the 150 is a bigger vehicle. So you're going to use a bit more fuel than a 150. If you think you're saving, it's because you've got a new 150 without any mods on it. and your old 120 had all the mods on it, right? So the modifications cost you money to set up, and they cost you fuel to run the vehicle, cost you insurance, and cost you everything, wear and tear, because that's other videos. So what to do? There's a conundrum. There's a few people still thinking about it. If they hung around, they're really not too sure what to do. So I'd sit tight for a little bit and have a think about it. Let's wait and see what happens with this one. I'm super impressed with it. If you went ahead and brought one after what I said, I wouldn't blame you. Okay, I certainly wouldn't blame you. But be warned about the hybrids I believe are coming. They'll be petrol hybrids, 4-cylinder electric. There'll be a decent sized electric motor. Just like all these other vehicles, they're going to impress us. And after this little 2.8 from 2015, it wouldn't be hard to impress us from now on. So I was a bit, let's say, depressed about the way the future was headed and what we aren't getting. But now that we can see the performance of the RAV4, and I understand the new systems of hybrids and the way they're using these 2 electric motors, and I think it can only get better from there, I'm actually quite excited about it. And you know what? It's going to be a hard decision. Once they come out, I'll probably wait a couple of years, as I always do, because new things, there can always be teething problems. You know how it works. But I will jump all over a hybrid, and if it's got a plug by then, even better. And if it doesn't, I'll probably grab one anyway. But my problem will be if I've grown to love this even more, because the transmission, I'm telling you, it just operates so well. This is better than a 200 series. I'll tell you why. Because a 200 series has got the same software problem as the other 1GDs, right? So this transmission, it's an Asian transmission. It's used in other makes and models, and they map it differently, and it works better. But the 200 series setup is hopeless. Everybody's complained about it for ages, okay? In this vehicle, for 60 grand, you get a brand new vehicle with everything you need, with a long warranty, with awesome fuel economy. You got an engine that's got enough power and torque, and I think it's a 3-ton towing, isn't it? So I'm not suggesting you tow 3-ton with it. I always say, with a Prado, a vehicle this size, your limit's got to be around 1,500, 2-ton max. It all depends how fast you want to go and how far you want to go and how long you want to do it for. Of course, we always say that's what the V8's there for, but I've got to tell you, if the V8 transmission is going to slip like crazy, and it is, like the torque converter unlock situation, like the other 1GDs, then 200 series isn't the answer. This is the answer right here, because it's got 500 Newton meters, which isn't as much as the V8, but it's getting close. I think the torque on this will be nice, and this is the other thing I'm going to do. I'm going to take the next step. I'm going to put a tow bar on. I said that in the other video, and we're going to do some testing. So it's all pretty exciting. Careful of the hybrids. Don't get caught holding the bag with any diesel, but you might want to hang on to your 1KD, and then you can see what happens with a hybrid. And you might even go for a Kluger hybrid or something for your run around and your touring, that sort of thing. Could be a good option. And you might just, so look, I'm not up for saying stick for your 1KDs and whatever and your diesels. When the technology comes along, I'm going to be out of business. I'm going to be all over saying, go get your hybrids. But to be quite honest, I think there's going to be diesel injectors and diesel work required for longer than I'm going to be around. But it's certainly not a concern of mine to worry about the business. I can do anything to make money. I'm quite secure, and my recommendations or information to you is nothing to do with money. It's genuine information. So if you liked it, hit the like button, subscribe, turn the bell on if you haven't already. If you made it to the end, you did bloody well, and I've done that without a drink. So bada bing. I took a little break every now and then for a minute, but that's it. And bada boom, catch you on the next one. See ya.